There have been some Netflix movies and series that I've binged over the past few weeks. Now, I'm seeing a ton of good acting and casting for these new shows. There, of course, is the usual, Dragon Slayer, costume drama, historical nonfiction. But you know what? It's fun. But I also have to tell you, what has impressed me the most is the acting. Authentic portrayals from a variety of actors and acting styles that make the storytelling quite compelling. Oh, that rhymes. So I began to really study what is really happening with the actors I am most impressed with. It might be a simple observation on my part, but I really think it is a great subject for today's podcast. Let's look how we react, not react, with our emotions. This is Casting Actors Cast.
This is Casting Actors Cast. Jeffrey Dreisbach brings you insights and inspiration. Make a difference in your acting and your acting career. Here's Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York. Thank you for joining us today on this really cool episode, I think, of Casting Actors Cast. We've got a lot to get to, but I need to do a little bit of housekeeping first. One is if you go to the website, castingactorscast.com, there's some freebies for you. Just fill out that form that says dive into the talent pool. That's going to open up a free book on doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. It's 100 pages, absolutely free. I am not kidding. Also, there's a free video called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. Thousands of people have been listening and getting the book, so I'm just trying to get it out there as much as possible to help you feel more comfortable and more confident as you plunge into the world of acting and of, being in the business, for lack of a better way to say it. Also, my book called Jeff's Jots has been released. You can go to Amazon.com, or if you go to the website, castingactorscast.com, you'll see a link. Jeff's Jots, I'm really excited about. It's really based on the first 300 episodes of the podcast, but it's not just a repeat of the episodes in written word form. No, I've rewritten it all to put it in a comprehensive format that I think you're going to find really easy to use. Also, my course called The Art of the Audition, this is through the Creative Coaching Partners, is doing very, very well. I invite you to check out the course, The Art of the Audition. The link is also on the website. If you have a self-tape that you want to send to me, I'm going to do and pick one of those self-tapes that I've been sent and put it live on the air. Now, the way you do that is just filling out that form. It says dive into the talent pool. You can copy and paste your link. And, of course, you need to leave permission for me to be able to air it live on the air. So I'm gearing up for that. That's been very popular for folks in the past. Maybe you want to share your self-tape with others and get some feedback all in this, in the same way, in the same process, with the same, Oh, man, where's my coffee? All right, I think that's all the housekeeping for today, but finally, my shout out to my good friends at actorsconnection.com/New York, Colleen and Tony. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's move on to the subject, shall we? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Well, so the theory goes. But I think many times actors fail to break down the emotional content, so the reacting is obligatory and it's not spontaneous. So in the interest of finding something spontaneous, here are some tips to think about, and some tips I think you should try when you have a scene, whether it's in a class or whether it's for an audition, or maybe you've got a booking and you're working on the part and you're trying to come up with some ideas to make it feel more interesting and more creative. So here are some thoughts. Now, we all know what subtext is. So subtext is what you're thinking while you're saying. What's the internal conversation that's taking place. But I'm here to tell you, subtext is an emotion. It is not a conversation. It's not what you're telling yourself. It's how you feel about what you're telling yourself. So there's another layer there that should very much be explored as you're working on a script, as you're working on a role. Please remember that the subtext isn't just what you're telling yourself, but it really is feeding into that emotional funnel of how you are feeling as a result. Something to think about. Here's another thought. And I saw this in some of these Netflix series, is if you look for the opposite emotion of what you think it should be first, and then approach the scene from that perspective, you're going to be in a much, much better place to find some interesting and unique choices. Now, for example, if you know that you're supposed to be angry in the scene, well, if you look at what is the opposite of anger, it would be joy. So why not approach the scene in a joyful way, just to see how it colors the anger? So when you find the opposite emotion, and then you can approach it from that perspective, a lot of really interesting choices and information are going to become available to you. Something I suggest. Let's go on from there. When we are acting, we process what you are hearing and then the effect it has on you, and then act on that. So, in other words, let me say this in a different way. Hearing, as I've said before, is like a 3-step process, right? So you hear, then you think about what you've heard, and then you react to what you've heard. So my suggestion is that you process what you are hearing and the effect it has on you emotionally. And then you act on that emotion. What will happen when you do that is it'll really enrich the entire experience that you're having with the significant other in the scene. Okay, I just made you all a lot of money right now, and I'm just kind of angry I'm not getting 10%. Okay, that was kind of supposed to be funny. So think about this. Here's another one. Reacting is not reacting, but reacting. Acting again based on your previous experience. So reacting is not just recreating the emotion, but experiencing the moment with emotion. Do you see the difference? If you anticipate how you're supposed to feel, then that feeling is not genuine. But if you are experiencing the moment with an emotional track, it will absolutely change the dynamic of the scene and give you so much more interest and drive for that scene. Moving on from there, apply the humor lens to discover new approaches. Like I said before, doing an opposite emotion, why not take a difficult or challenging scene and seeing where, and I'm not talking about just trying to be funny in a serious scene, by the way. That's not what I'm talking about. But I am saying that the human condition keeps us from going too far one way or too far another, especially if we're in a scene with another person, especially if we are playing somebody who's relatively sane. But I think that there is a lens of humor that you can approach some of these scenes that can lighten up the overall emotional place that the character is in to come up with really some new approaches that can make a difference. Okay, let's move on from there. I think filling the moments that you're creating in that scene, fill it with feelings and not thoughts. I got a letter from an actor who said filling the beats, the moments with thought. And I thought, gosh, that's really true. That's really good, but not entirely. The reason that we have the thoughts is so that we can elicit or connect with the emotion that is behind it. So fill the moments with feelings and not entirely with thoughts. Although thoughts are an important process in listening and reacting and of course, in acting. But what are the feelings behind it? That can be a supported, interesting, compelling choice for your acting. Now, I also think that reacting is aligned with being in the moment. And you've heard that phrase before, I'm sure. Be in the moment, be in the moment. So I always resented that because I wasn't quite sure what that meant. But that means that you stay present. But I also think that when you are employing reacting, it's also aligned with being in the moment, and here's how. Think of every moment as a new opportunity to react. Every moment, every beat is yet another opportunity to have an emotional component to what you're feeling. Also, moving on from there, I don't think the choices are just linear all the time. A doesn't necessarily go to B all the time. I think it's important to explore the unexpected. People react oftentimes completely differently than what you might expect. I love my brother so much. I'm not going to mention his name, but I have a brother that whenever there's some tragic or sad news, it's like this shift in him makes him smile. Not that he thinks it's funny. It's just that he has this really interesting way of perceiving difficult, challenging information with a sense of humor. I know it sounds too weird, and I guess I shouldn't have brought it up because that means I have to kind of think this through a little bit more and explain it a little more. I'm going to not do that. But my point is that choices aren't always just going from happy to euphoric to happy to sad to depressed. I think it can be all over the place. Think of popcorn in the microwave with your emotional vocabulary. I also think it's valuable to connect with your own life experience and using that as a filter. If you're not sure how you should be reacting, ask yourself, well, how would I react if I were in this situation? That's kind of an easy default place to be when you're confronted with an emotion or a place in the scene that doesn't kind of jibe, doesn't kind of make sense for you. I also think reacting, not just reacting can also change the energy and the mood of the moment. So the biggest challenge for understanding what it is to react, and the thing that I experience a lot of times when actors try to experience the emotion rather than just recreating a moment, is I see actors watching themselves. So when you're having an emotional moment, try not to take your own temperature. Try not to evaluate what is happening while you are doing it. First of all, that's not being in the moment, right? But also, it's that third eye that's constantly seeing how it is effective, how it is working. And I think that that takes away from that genuine, authentic self in character. I also think it's important that actors commit to the choices that they make. Really make a commitment to it. It's so much more interesting to see an actor make a committed choice than to try and hedge the way they're playing something because they're not quite sure how they feel about how they should be playing it. I hope that that makes sense. I also have to say this, and this is a big one. Those internal choices that you're making, those emotional statements that you're experiencing, they do not have to be shown. We do not have to see how upset you are to be upset. So this is not about the exterior kind of demonstration of what emotion you're going through, but it is having the internal experience of that emotion. So please somebody write that down really quick because I think that that was like really, really helpful. In other words, you don't have to show me all of the work. You just have to have done the work and then have the experience. Okay, write that down because that was really good too. So bottom line is, when you trust your choices, you can explore a myriad of opportunities for your reacting. You can react or you can react with emotion and authenticity when you include your emotional vocabulary as part of the character you are playing. Wow. You might need to kind of play that back and hear it again. I know this is kind of off the cuff, the spontaneousness of doing these podcasts. But you know what? I think that there's value in readjusting your approach sometimes to your work. I hope that you've found this helpful. This was a lot of fun for me. And I hope to have you come by next time on Casting Actors Cast. Thank you so much.